Disclaimer, none of these pictures are mine. I got them from the internet. Okay, so here's my actual essay. The dynamic duo of green and gray. Colors are evident all during the course of the novel The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Whether they are used to describe colors of a house or hopes and aspirations of a character, colors are a huge part of the plotline and imagery of the story. Green is an essential color as it represents youth, Daisy, and hope. Green is used to represent dreams and desires of the characters, whether they attain them or not. On the contrary, gray is used to describe the unimportant, dull things in the story. It is also used to separate the two social classes, gray being used to describe only the poor, hopeless, and lowest class citizens. For these reasons, green and gray are polar opposites and used for completely different reasons. However, when the colors are used together, they can make a perfect duo for the extreme separation of social classes. Gray is mainly used in this novel to describe the Valley of Ashes, a desolate place in Long Island where the poor people live and work. This color is used to mainly separate the two residential areas of the rich and the poor working classes. When describing the Valley of Ashes, Nick says the color gray multiple times to explain the bad financial state of this small area. He says that occasionally a line of gray cars crawls along an invisible track, gives out a ghastly creak, and comes to rest, and immediately the ash-gray men swarm up with leaden spades and stir up an impenetrable cloud. This quote shows the true dullness and unimportance of the people living there. Another instance of the usage of gray is a little later in the novel, when Myrtle was buying a puppy. The man who sold her the puppy was described as a gray old man, therefore emphasizing the fact that these people that live here are as dull and unimportant as the land around them. Green is first mentioned when Nick Carraway, a Wall Street businessman, notices a shadowy figure strolling along his neighbor's dock. The figure stops at the end of the dock and starts reaching across the bay. As Nick describes this scene, he says, "Involuntarily I glanced seaward, and distinguished nothing except a single green light, minute and far away, that might have been the end of a dock." Green is used in this sense the instant we meet Jay Gatsby, as he is the figure walking leisurely down his own dock. One could think that he was a bizarre man and was reaching toward nothing but plain light, but the color green goes much deeper than what reaches the eye. When used in this sense, the green light represents Daisy, Gatsby's lingering love interest from 5 years ago. Daisy was in love with Gatsby until he went off to war. After that, Daisy married someone else, and the couple moved to East Egg. After hearing of this, Gatsby hastily moves across the bay, where the green light is forever in his sight. The green light is the end of Daisy's dock, and Gatsby reaches towards this light every night in hopes of retaking Daisy as his own. Hope is a main theme throughout this novel. The entire plotline revolves around the desire that is maintained in Gatsby to repeat the past, back to his youth, win back Daisy, and finally have the love of his life. Gatsby is so bent on repeating the past that he himself cannot comprehend the idea that Gatsby is forever married to another man. Gatsby's persistence can only be explained by the daunting of this green light that represents everything he knew and loved before he lost it all. Even after recognizing that he may not be able to obtain this woman that he wants, he keeps trying because of the hope deep inside of him that tells him yes. He can eventually beat against the current and reach that single green light, minute and far away. After Gatsby's untimely death, on the last page of the book, it says that Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. Gatsby believed in the green light, and this true and pure hope ultimately destroyed him, from losing his temper with Daisy's husband to losing his life. Therefore, green can represent Daisy, the love of Gatsby's life, or the hope that burned within Gatsby, that through his actions ended his own existence. Gray and green, when put together, differ completely. While gray represents the hopelessness of the lower class society, green represents the strong and pure hope for the future. Gray represents the old, worn-out parts of either people or places, such as when Nick talks about the Valley of Ashes and the people in it. In contrast, green is applied when the upper-class citizens have hopefulness of the future ahead of them. We can conclude from this information that these colors are indeed complete opposites. In conclusion, these two colors, while they are very different from each other, describe this story perfectly. They describe the opposites of the social classes in the story, from the wealthy ones to the poor working class. Green describes a new life, while gray represents a life that is ongoing and monotonous. One can even assume that these colors represent the entire plotline, and how the story entirely embodies the separation of social classes as a main conflict. The separation of these classes is so extreme that it causes multiple problems for the characters, such as Daisy's husband Tom, having an affair with a lower-class woman, Myrtle. This separation makes this affair much less plausible, and Myrtle is described as colorless until in Tom's care, when she is suddenly described as colorful. From this reasoning, one can tell that the colors gray and green, although polar opposites, can work together flawlessly to separate the social classes in The Great Gatsby.